We embarked on our Flight to Transformation on Spirit Air last month. This month, our in-flight entertainment is getting back to the basics of our teaching of the science of mind and spirit. And we are really exploring what all of this means, this teaching that we talk about and that we hear about and that we pray about and that we gather to know about. The gift of this teaching is that it brings us tools for spiritual living so that we might have a lifestyle, not just a Sunday thing, but a lifestyle that is about spiritual living, that is tapping into the very interior of our beingness and expressing that outwardly in the world, creating a world that works for everyone. And we're all contributing to that possibility. So we began this series of talks on the basics of the science of mind and spirit at the beginning of the month, and we talked about the fundamental principle, that is, God is all there is. There's one life, that life is God, that life is my life now. The infinite life of the one Spirit is unfolding itself in and through and as me. So I'm going to ask you to repeat that with me every week until we're done, until you get it, okay? So God is all there is.
God is all there is.
There is one life, that life is God, that life is my life now. There is one life, that life is God, that life is my life now. The infinite life of the one Spirit, is unfolding itself in and through and as me. Is unfolding itself in and through and as me. Okay? Then last week, or actually Mother's Day weekend, I wasn't here, but Susan, one of our practitioners, spoke to you about the divine feminine, which is also a principle of life. It's what gives us balance. And then next month we'll talk about the divine masculine so that we get the full meal deal. And then you know what happens when those two get together. Yeah. All kinds of fun. Let's loose, right? But last week then, we came back to some of the fundamentals of our teaching. Not that that's not one of them, and I thank you, Susan, for speaking about it. Last week we explored the basic premise that underpins the principles and the teaching of this science of mind. And what we learned that underpinning premise is there is a presence and a power for good in the universe greater than we are, and we can use it. And it can use us for good. So I'm going to ask you to repeat that one too. There is a presence and a power for good in the universe. There is a presence and a power for good in the universe, greater than we are, and we can use it. And it can use us for good. Right. Okay, remember that. So when you're about to do something, make sure it's using you for good. So this week, what we want to explore is the practice of the science of mind and spirit, the practice itself. You know, for this teaching to actually activate itself in our lives and to activate our lives more fully, we must develop a spiritual practice. That's what gets us into that spiritual living as a lifestyle. Ernest Holmes, our founder, wrote this. He said, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. Isn't that the truth? And then he went on to say, and this is one of my favorite things that he said, that inspiration without application is hallucination. And I think many of us have been hallucinating for far too long. So it's not just that we learn this stuff and we can, you know, I went to ministerial school with a guy that it freaked me out. I mean, it totally freaked me out. The very first class I was in, I thought, oh, this is the end of my ministerial career, because this guy, he starts spouting off chapter and verse from the textbook. You know, like people do with the Bible, but it was from our textbook, and he was telling what page and what paragraph and what sentence and, you know, all this stuff from memory. I'm like, oh God, we don't have to do that, do we? You know, I'm like, I'm done, you know? So he's spouting all this stuff. I mean, it was hard to even have a conversation with him because it would all end up being, you know, quotes from the textbook. And, you know, as it turned out, that was all he was doing, was he was memorizing the stuff, but he wasn't embodying it. And he wasn't embracing it fully, and he wasn't being the full experience and expression of that. So too little practice And as it turned out, he never finished ministerial school. I did, but he didn't, you know, and I didn't memorize any of the book. I'm like Einstein. Hey, I can always look it up if I need to. So Einstein used to say when he couldn't remember his phone number or his address, he said, well, I can always look it up. I'm like, yeah, why carry that stuff around in your head? But the point is, it's important that we practice this teaching, that it becomes ours, that it becomes a way of life. Because when we practice, we engage and we apply what we call love and law. Those are the twin aspects of the divine creative process, love and law. Love shows the way, and the law makes the way possible. So one points the direction, and the other one unfolds it. So, you know, we can let go of old past limiting beliefs and experiences. We can actually let those things go, those things that we carry around. You've heard the saying, I can't say it in church, but, you know, if I ever got all my, you know what, together, I wouldn't be able to lift it. Yeah, so let it go. Let it go. You don't need to carry all that baggage around with you. And besides, they charge you extra on the airlines now if you carry all that stuff. So don't carry it. Let it go. You don't need it. You can get it, you know, wherever the destination is. We'll get what we need there. Because heaven forbid we show up in Florida with our winter clothes, right? We don't need that. So leave your baggage behind. We'll get good stuff where we're going. And you know, we can literally let all that stuff go. And what it opens us up to is that we can create a new thought, a new idea, a new belief, a new possibility out of that no-thingness of infinite creation. We have a blank slate, an empty canvas before us that we can paint on. And we do it through the practice of these principles and the premise that we've explored already. And we can come to know the truth of our being, the truth of life, and the truth will set us free. Love shows the way. Love shows the way. Love brings us a restoration to knowing the truth and of being, and of our own being. We get to know who we truly are, not the masks or the roles that we've played. You know, we're taught to be somebody we're not too often. And it's not a midlife crisis, it's a midlife awakening. We awaken to, I've been playing somebody else's part, and now I'm gonna play mine. Finally. We give up all the old baggage and we claim who we truly are. And so love awakens us to that truth of being and to the infinite possibility that that brings. We're welcomed to infinite possibility by our authenticity, not by our roles and masks that we play. It's hard to arrive at possibility when you're not even who you are. Possibility doesn't recognize you. When you're authentic, it says, I've been waiting for you. Come on, let's go. Let's have some fun now. And Spirit supports us with unconditional love to become that. Love is the great impulsion, the great creative impulsion. It's the impulse to become who we truly are. And out of that authentic beingness, we create and become and do the impossible. I always love that, was it Audrey Hepburn, I think, that said, impossible. What it really says is, I'm possible. I'm possible. But not if we're not authentically who we are. Not if we're not standing in the truth. And love brings us to that truth. It unveils it. It awakens us to our inherent wholeness, our oneness, our possibility, our becoming, our perfection. We're already perfect. But you know, it's like when you go into a house and you go, wow, those cabinets are gorgeous underneath multiple layers of varnish and paint. You know, and you take it off, you take all those layers off and you're like, wow, look at that gorgeous wood. It's the same thing we're doing with ourselves. We're uncovering all those layers that have been painted on by other people and by ourselves. And voila, wow, ain't you gorgeous? Ooh, the real you. It's like those game shows, will the real so-and-so please stand up? You know, a lot of imposters. Spirit supports us in that becoming authentic, and becoming the spiritual being that we are, expressing itself as a human being. And it's Spirit's pleasure to give us the kingdom of allness and goodness. It's already been given. It's waiting for us to receive it. So love points the way. Love points the way. And the law makes that way possible. The law makes it possible. The law happens in our consciousness. Our consciousness moves in the direction that the love is pointing. If we are in alignment with spirit, with the one mind that is spirit, within us and surrounding us. The law is the creative unfoldment of that divine power that love holds. You know, love stands there just vibrating with power, and then the law starts to unwrap it. You know, remember when you're little kids and you got a gift either for Christmas or your birthday? You were like vibrating with excitement to rip that thing open. Because all that love that's in that package, because it was put together, it doesn't matter what the thing was. What matters is all the love that went into it, right? And it's like vibrating just like you are with excitement to get out. And it's the law that bursts it open and allows it to take off in the direction of your dreams. How cool is that? Yeah. Next time you wrap a package, think of it that way. And next time you unwrap one, think of it that way. We can still have the excitement the kids have. I do. I still do. One thing I would caution you not to do, however, this is just a little aside, this is a little human tip. One Christmas, I prided myself on shaking every package and guessing every single gift. And I thought, oh wow, aren't I something? You know what I realized that afterward? That I had sort of ruined it for everybody who gave me a gift. And I realized it's not just about getting, it's about receiving in a gracious way. So receive the love and the power and the presence that Spirit has to give. Receive it graciously, because it's been given in grace. So that law unfolding is the creative pathway that governs all of life and all of its becoming. So the love and law enables it, working together, the love and law enables us to move from the invisible possibility into the visible reality of our lives, to make the invisible visible. Our thoughts and our ideas become form or experience in our lives. Here are some phrases that we all probably have said many, many times and not maybe stop to think it through. As above, so below, right? As within, so without. As you believe, so it is done unto you. As you sow, so shall you reap. It all kind of works in that nice way. St. Paul said it this way: be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. When we learn to think differently through love and law, we indeed are renewed. Not only in mind, but in body and spirit in every way. And Ernest Holmes himself said, change your thinking, change your life. It all starts with thinking, with consciousness. That starts to grasp what the love is trying to create and to be a part of the unfoldment through law. We use the creative process. We're using it all the time. This is the good news. We're already really, really good at using the creative process. We're really, really good creators and manifestors. Here's the tricky part. Much of it is unconscious. And then we go, how did I end up here? How did I get this? Because we went to sleep. We were unconscious. But when we are intentional and conscious and we use the creative process through love and law, then we do create intentionally and consciously, and we get the mirror image of that which we have truly in mind. But we must be conscious to do it. Must be conscious. So we use the creative process all the time. The mystics have taught this all along. Hang on, I think I just went dead. Hello?
Hello?
Anybody out there? Hello? Can you hear me on the?
I do.
I'm suddenly not hearing myself.
Yeah.
It's like unplugged somehow.
There's a wireless right here.
Use the wireless, Susie.
Yeah, you're right, because if she gets loose, you might get hurt. We can do this.
Check your connections.
Yeah, check your connection.
Yeah, just Who's the next one?
Okay.
Hello.
And they thought it was safe to come to, no. All right. We'll just do that. By the end of the service, I will have used every mic. Just a mic test, that's all. So as I was saying, the mystics have known all along that we are part of the creative process, that we are co-created partners with Spirit itself. Now that, as I've said a couple of times, the quantum physicists are proving what the mystics knew, and the quantum physicists talk about the observer effect, meaning that nothing happens without our interaction. So our very observation or interaction with the creative wave of possibility is what literally collapses it by our thinking about it, by our observation of it, by our interaction with it. We collapse the wave of infinite possibility into a particular experience or form. We are powerful beyond measure. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. So it is that love and law that enables us to creatively, intentionally, consciously have the experience that we want to have, to create the world that works for everyone, including us. So we collapse that possibility into our reality. Edwards Deming, who happened to be a management consultant, who was not paid attention to in this country, but he went to Japan and they paid attention, look what happened for them. Suddenly they were doing things better than we were. But what Edwards Deming said was, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Isn't this an exciting day?
Anything's possible.
I meant to do that.
I turned this box off. It's run out of batteries.
Yeah, things change. Okay, so we're ready again? Okay.
Yes. We hear you.
I was just checking to see if you were paying attention. Now that's easy. Okay. Wow. We should do that every week. Look at the energy. I mean, it's just like-
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so Edwards Deming, we're going to say that again. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's how powerful we are. So whatever we think and feel and believe into the infinite field of possibility moves into form and experience in our lives. Remember that. Even when you're unconscious, we don't get a time out because, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to go unconscious for a minute, so don't do anything. It's working all the time. So best advice, stay conscious. Stay conscious. We literally, through our thinking and our feeling, are creating all the time. We talked about this with our little acronym, PTFAR, point FAR. Program our thoughts and our feelings to empower our actions to get results that point us far. Constantly doing that if we're conscious. So the science of mind and spirit teaches us not what to think, but how to think. How to think consciously and intentionally, and powerfully and constructively. You know, we're given this power of thought and this power of choice. We get to choose what it is that we're thinking about. We get to choose what it is that we're feeling about, and taking that power and channeling it in a particular direction. And we have the power to co-create with Spirit, no greater partner in the universe. Spiritual practices and principles develop our spiritual muscle to do that and to do it better and better and better all the time. You know, Pablo Casals was the greatest cellist who ever lived. I still believe that. I haven't seen it. Well, what's his name?
Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah, Yo-Yo Ma is pretty darn good too. But you know what? Here's the deal. Both of them, well, I'll tell the story about Pablo Casals. He was being interviewed for some magazine, but I think Yo-Yo Ma would probably say the same thing. And the guy interviewing him, Pablo Casals, said that he still practiced 8 hours a day. This is like, he's like old by now, you know, he's been a virtuoso forever. And the guy says, you still practice 8 hours a day? Why do you do that? And he said, because I think I'm getting the hang of it. So practice, you know? And then that other bromide, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Well, how do you get to spiritual living? How do you get to the most authentic beingness that you can get to in your life? Practice, practice, practice. That's how we do it. We practice. And so spiritual practice, in using these principles that we teach, is what helps us to get there. It helps us to free ourselves from fear-based living so that we might move into spiritual living, spirit-filled, spiritual living. That's the possibility. Faith-based living rather than fear-based. You know, the co-creation process or the co-creative process brings spirit into form through our lives. That love that I talked about is the seed or the idea that's planted in the creative soil of law that unfolds it, that nurtures it, and brings it forth in the harvest of our experience. Love, the seed, law, the soil, and our experience or form is the harvest or the plant, the outcome. But here's the deal. Nothing changes in your life until you start to work with your subconscious mind. You know how sometimes you'll make a decision, you say, oh, from now on, I'm going to do so-and-so. And lo and behold, I do this, I'm not eating fried foods anymore. And the next thing I know, I've got a piece of fried chicken in my mouth, right? You know, I'm like, well, how did that happen? Who put that in my mouth? You know, how did that happen? Well, I went unconscious. I forgot that I wasn't eating fried food anymore. And there I am, the nearest fried food, I'm there. Right? So nothing happens until we really work with our subconscious mind, because that's the one that's really unfolding things. We make a conscious decision, but if the subconscious mind isn't in agreement, guess who wins out? The subconscious mind. That's the one that moves things. So otherwise, we continue in the same pattern if we don't work with that subconscious mind. You know, if you always think what you've always thought, you'll always get what you've always got. And it won't change until you do. Inwardly, deeply. So to change your life, you must change your pattern of thought. And that pattern of thought is your current level of consciousness. So we must shift our consciousness. And to change that pattern of the subconscious, we do it by patient, consistent, and constant affirmation of that which we're headed to. So we're constantly affirming the destination that we have in mind. And it is fueled by having a vivid mental picture in mind and a passionate inner feeling in our soul with conviction and enthusiasm and passion. That's what gets us there. That's what shifts that subconscious mind, the one underneath the surface that we don't pay attention to. We need to pay greater attention to that subconscious mind because it's taking us in all kinds of directions. Your subconscious then accepts and reproduces what we think and feel into it. We think and feel into the subconscious mind, and it starts then to correspond and mirror that which we are thinking and feeling. And the whole purpose of this teaching, the whole purpose of metaphysics, is to bring awareness and contact with spirit so that we might be those co-creators with spirit and create the lives that we love to live. And it's achieved through that conscious, consistent, spiritual practice. That's how it's done. There's no way around it. There's no, you know how we were kids, we learned about the law of the harvest. You plant and you nurture and then you harvest. When we were kids, we waited till, at least I did, till the last minute to study for the exam. We crammed at the end. You can't cram your life together. It takes constant, consistent practice. And the science of mind offers us a robust toolkit of practices. And the path and the disciplines of those spiritual practices go a little bit like this. There's first the journey inward, which is mastering the self as a way of being. Mastering self as a way of being. The practices included in that journey inward are meditation, which is connecting with our good and listening to spirit. Another practice in the journey inward is prayer, which is affirming our good and speaking with spirit, speaking into the spirit. And another practice in the journey inward is visioning, which is deep listening within and catching spirit's vision for the greater yet to be of our lives. The next level is the place at the center of our being, the place of center, which is our relationship with God, self, and the universe as a way of knowing, as a way of knowing deeply. Practices there are things like worship. That's a hard one for New Thought people to hear, worship. What I mean by worship is knowing God in self and in others and in nature as love and being in awe of that creation. That's worship. It's not worshiping something outside yourself. It's worshiping the world in which we are all connected. And another practice at the place of center is study, training our mind, aligning ourselves with spiritual wisdom. Then we move to the journey outward. That's the action that arises out of our authentic beingness as a way of doing. Our doing arises out of being. The practices included in the journey outward are service. Service is one of them. Acting from our awareness of unity and connectedness, oneness, and love. So we move into service. Another practice in the journey outward is witnessing. Being with one another in community and witnessing the transitions and the evolution of our lives. Witnessing. Isn't it wonderful when we see someone's dreams come true in community? You know, we all feel like part of our own dream has come true. So bearing witness to one another as we evolve. Another practice is conscious giving. Giving of our time, our talent, and our treasure. Here and in ever-widening circles. Giving of our time, talent, and treasure. And we can only do that truly and most powerfully from our authentic beingness. And finally, celebration. Celebration is part of the journey outward. Expressing spirit in us as joy and gratitude. How powerful is that? And these are the spiritual practices that help us to create a lifestyle called spiritual living, where we are fulfilled from the inside out, and we can't help but overflow all of that good. The practices of the science of mind and spirit. So blessings on your journey of living the essence of the science of mind and spirit. Embody the principles and the premise, and engage and activate the practices in your life. And I guarantee every day you'll say, wow, I can't get much better than this. And the next day you go, it just did. Wow, I can't get much better than this. And the next day you go, it just did. And you keep going and keep becoming and keep experiencing and keep expressing. And so it is.